Hi everyone, this is a video about this ASUS laptop. It's got an AMD A4 processor and it used to be my little file server because it uses a very small amount of power. It uses about 11 watts thanks to the AMD A4 processor. But it's also very slow. I've asked it to start Task Manager, as you can see, and it takes a long time to come up. And it uses 100% a lot of the time when it's doing Windows updates or anti-malware scans or anything else. It uses the whole full 100% of the processor, and it's kind of basically just a little bit too slow for anything at all, really. Even just running Windows 10 is too slow. So it worked as a file server, but then when I needed to use it to move around files or anything like that, it was just too slow, basically. So I thought I'd see how this performs with an older operating system. And this laptop has got a touchscreen, and the screen resolution's quite nice. But I've actually disabled all of that. I've disabled the touchscreen and run PowerShell and cleaned up a load of stuff so that it's a really stripped down version of Windows 10, but it's still very slow. And Microsoft's gonna put Copilot back on there for some reason. So we'll just install Windows 8 on this, see what that's like, and see if Windows 8 was really that bad. And this is where I'll speed up the process. So we're booting from Ventoy, and we have got Windows 8.1 x64 on here, so hopefully we can install this on this laptop. That doesn't look quite right, so I'm not entirely sure what it's doing, but yeah, the plan is to install Windows 8.1 on here. I think this laptop came with Windows 8.1 originally. The processor is an AMD A4-1200 dual core 1 GHz. I think it's booting back into Windows 10, unfortunately, at the moment. So what else can I tell you about it? It's got an SSD in here with Windows 10 on it. So that should help with the performance. Maybe this is the Windows. Yay! This is the Windows 8 setup. So let's have a look what we've got. This is the little circle from Windows 7. Windows 8 is basically a continuation of Windows 7. So there'll be some similarities. And maybe the performance will be okay. This laptop's got 4 GB of RAM. We've got an SSD, as I mentioned, dual core processor that's 64-bit compatible. But as you can see, it's looking pretty slow. And while I go through these steps, let's see if we can do a separate partition maybe. Probably not. We can't really without wiping it. So we may as well just wipe it all. I don't need that Windows 10 install anymore. I suppose since I'm messing around with this and I might put a different operating system on here as well, I could set up a partition for this to give space for something else. So let's just go for 60-ish. And if you're not a subscriber, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Always welcome new subscribers, and there are membership offers available where you get sort of additional videos, longer videos that haven't been edited or sped up and things like that. And some maybe behind the scenes pictures, and check out the community tab where we have little polls or things like that worth looking at. But yeah, I really appreciate all the comments that I get, and if you find these videos relaxing or entertaining or informative or educational or even sometimes funny, then let me know in the comments. It's always good to hear from people. And I guess part of the aim of this channel is to look at what you can do with old technology, and it's a shame that computers are sort of built to such a price point where even from probably when this was brand new, this would have had a laptop hard drive in, so it would have been even slower, and the processor in it is very low power, which is good, but to the point where it's not powerful enough to run even the operating system it came with, which is a real shame, because even just a little bit of a bump in performance for this processor would have seen this be a laptop that would be much more useful. So I think for this system, I'm going to try Windows 8 and see if it performs okay. And it may be a case of just, going backwards in time until we find an operating system that runs well on this little system. Maybe it's Windows 7, or maybe even Windows Vista or Windows XP would probably run really well on this, but then that kind of limits its usefulness. And of course there's Linux, but I think this laptop's probably going to be slow with Linux as well, Linux Mint or a modern Linux operating system, but maybe some of the lower requirement of Linux versions would be good, like Puppy Linux, and I'm sure there's others that people have mentioned on the channel. But yeah, we're getting this install going. It's going quick enough that this is hopefully going to be another video where it doesn't take too long to get up and running, and won't take too long in editing, because that makes the process easier, and you get to see how long it takes. Let me move this closer so you can see what's happening. So the AMD A4-1200 processor in this laptop came out in 2013, and it uses about 3.9 watts, which is really impressive, except for the low performance. And it is a 64-bit processor, as mentioned, running at 1 gigahertz, and it doesn't have a turbo feature, which is unfortunate. That would have probably helped boost its performance. And it's also got a built-in AMD Radeon graphics HD 8180. So, the 3D performance and graphics of this should be reasonable for the time period, and should be fine for, Windows basically. So this install is happening in real time. I'm not going to speed this up, so you can sort of see how quick it is, how long this takes. I think the install process for Windows isn't as bad as it used to be. Windows 10 is fairly quick to install from a USB, and it looks like Windows 8 is relatively quick as well, although not sure how many different steps there'll be as we go through this, or whether we'll need to install drivers. And if you have a look on the channel, there's a bunch of playlists set up, depending what you're interested in. There's a playlist for laptops, Windows. Technology has the most videos. I've got a playlist with Linux videos in, but there aren't many of them, but that'll probably grow over time. As well as old school PCs, what's inside. And there's a range of videos about PC RAM speed that you can have a look at. So this laptop's been in, is this the slowest Windows 10 laptop, and also a cheap low power file server. Not really sure if I've mentioned, when Windows 8 came out, it changed the user interface. You no longer had a normal start button down here. You had a bunch of tiles all over the screen, and then when it first came out, the desktop was kind of hidden from view until you went and found it. And then Windows 8.1 came out, and that kind of made things better, easier to use, and a little bit more like Windows 7. But the reason they changed that was to try and make the Windows mobile operating system and the Windows on your laptop the same, so you're getting the same experience on different devices. But it was also designed for touchscreens, and this laptop does actually have a touchscreen, so it'll be interesting to see if the touchscreen was the missing piece for Windows 8. So, you know, Windows 8 came along, and most people, like if you had a normal desktop PC, you did not have a touchscreen. It just wasn't the norm. So it'll be interesting to see if Windows 8, you know, really does work better with a touchscreen, or if it's still going to just be kind of an unnecessary extra bit that you don't really need. It's taking a while to boot up. Normally I kind of prefer tower PCs because there's easier to repair and replace parts. You can take the power supply out, put it back in, change every component. And with laptops, you know, you have to have exactly the right power connector, or you have to have the right screen, or keyboard, if any of this breaks, you have to find exactly the right part to replace it and repair it. And access is much more difficult. You know, if I want to replace a hard drive in this, I have to take all the screws out and lift this off, and then I can replace the hard drive. Whereas with a PC, you know, open the side panel, easy access. But laptops do have the benefit of being quite readily available, quite cheap, and even though you do need parts for them and you need the specific parts, you can find them on eBay and they're quite cheap as well. So there are some benefits, and there's also benefits in how much power they use. This uses hardly anything, about 11 watts. And when I'm finished with this, I can kind of fold it up and put it away, put it in a drawer, and it's out of the way. Whereas desktop PCs do take a massive amount of space. Having an old laptop, even just to mess around with and play with, is quite neat. You can just, you know, try different operating systems, play around with it, and have a little bit of fun without kind of having to spend much money. So yeah, there's benefits to these low power laptops. If you're gonna go pick up one of these or something similar with a similar amount of power, it'd probably be really cheap on Facebook Marketplace or eBay. Yeah, and people give these things away. If you oh look here, we have got the touchscreen operating while we're booting up. So yeah, you can get them cheap on Facebook, eBay, other sites, and you could probably just ask your friends, family, local Facebook groups, if anyone's got some old kit they want to get rid of. Ooh, okay. So it's gone into full touchscreen mode. So Windows 8.1 and Windows 8 was also designed to work on tablets. So if you had a laptop that folded and was foldable into tablet mode, you wouldn't have access to this keyboard here. So they give you an on-screen keyboard. PC name. So I can just type with the keyboard. And can I bring this back?
Make your computer easier to use. Windows will read and scan this list automatically.
I want that to go away.
Set up Windows, pane, PC name, editing ASUS.
Not a fan of the noise, so let's see if we can...
Volume mute. Volume mute. F12. Volume up.
Okay, that's super loud. So I'm not entirely sure
Headings.
how I get the keyboard back.
Ease of access button, double tap. Ease of items.
I just want the touchscreen back, if possible, the keyboard, but let's just carry on.
Next button, double tap to activate.
This is very frustrating. So I've switched off the narrator. That was super frustrating. I've cut all the swearing out because that was very, very, very frustrating. So we're in the process of setting up Windows 8. Fine. Okay, whatever. Should we customize? Yeah. Update. Smart screen. Fine. Check online Windows error reporting. Oh, there's so much stuff. Let's turn off some of this. Turn off, turn off, turn off, turn off, turn off, turn off. It'd be nice if we could turn off some of this stuff. Hello. We're still setting things up for you. We've got some nice use of colour, I think, in Windows 8. Windows 7 was quite nice and colourful. I think Windows 10 kind of went a bit too dull, just blue. It's just a bit dull, really, but the colours in this are quite nice. And I haven't connected to the internet, so I just want to try and use it without connecting to the internet. And we know that the touchscreen's working, and here we have Windows 8.1. I think if we click the start, we get the Windows 8.1 sort of start screen, and this is the thing that people didn't like, because if it defaulted to this and you didn't have a touch screen, you were sort of scrolling around and then going, well, where do I find what I need? And having to sort of click down here to find your apps, and then it was in this weird list. Whereas, you know, if you have a touch screen, it's a little bit easier, a little bit more intuitive. But again, this has been installed on a low power laptop. This is a laptop that isn't going to give us very nice performance, and you can sort of see, let's see what it's doing here. I guess it's not doing too much. Ooh, and it's using 0.8 gigabytes, so it's using way less memory than Windows 10 was using, which is nice. But as you can see, it's not the smoothest, not the quickest, not the most responsive, a little bit slow in its response. And then I'm left thinking, right, well, how do I get back to my desktop? Okay, here we go. That's not too bad. Let's check Device Manager and see if all of the drivers are installed. So we've got the display adapter so we're missing the proper graphics drivers. I'll connect to the internet, I'll update the drivers, and I'll see if we get better performance. Bear with me a second. So while we're searching for the driver for the graphics, you'll notice that we've got this little keyboard shortcut here, so we can go for different options. I've also got a writing tool. It's also got, let me try this again. Hello. It's got the character recognition typing, so it turns this into text for us. Pretty good so far. We can hide the keyboard, and it's not too bad. Let's see what we get. So, can we show the desktop? Yep. And lines and colours. Cool. Quite nice looking. Although let's go back to the yellow, because that's a sort of default. Okay, we've installed the drivers, and we've got it in the display adapters. So let's have a look at this. Oh yeah. Is it just me, or is that looking more responsive and smoother? when we're using it, and Internet Explorer seems relatively reasonable, although it's asking me to update to Microsoft Edge and having a few connection problems, but I'll try some Windows updates and see what we get. But this is looking reasonable, to be honest. It's not using that much memory and it's quite responsive, and I'll just spend some time updating it, see what it's like on the internet, and come back and show you the performance of this machine. So you can go to the start, and then up here you've got the sleep, shutdown, restart options. I'll just do a quick restart, see how quick that is. This has got a sort of purple background. I'm not sure if it's coming through on the camera. Looks a bit more like a blue on the camera, but we'll restart and see how long that takes. See if that's a kind of quick or slow process. It's a little bit slow, but it is a slow laptop. And we're back on the desktop. I guess coming from a point of view where you're used to the start menu and options that you get with the usual start menu, these icons from going from this to this are quite different. You know, I can recognize Internet Explorer and OneDrive, but health and fitness, food and drink, what, sports, OneNote, photos, money, like news, weather. Why are they not sort of, where are the apps, for example? And obviously they're down here, but again, it's a big change to the way people are used to using Windows, and you can understand why people didn't like this when they'd been using Windows 7. It's giving me instructions on how to use the different features of this. This is quite interesting, this side panel that gives me the start, devices and settings, which is kind of nice. But then to actually get to the real settings, I had a quick look here. Oh, it's there. I didn't see that earlier, but there we go, settings, and I'm checking for updates now to see if I can get Windows updates working on this. But also the internet's working relatively well when I've just done a Google search. Do we get anything if we go down? I don't know what, maybe that would switch between the different apps. Swipe up doesn't seem to do anything. So let's get just another app up. And then swipe down. Nope, I've gone back to the start somehow. Okay. This doesn't really work in the way that I'm kind of expecting or hoping it to work, but it's still relatively responsive, and maybe this Windows 8 on this is acceptable. Maybe ignore what I was saying about this laptop being too slow to run Windows 8, because it's using 1.2 gigabytes of RAM. it's not using 100% of the processor. But yeah, I'll try a few more things and see how we get on with it. And you can always press the Windows key to get back to this, or slide sideways. Not sure what sharing will do. And then search everywhere. No results found for your search for Google, and now the search has taken over the screen. What's this doing? Customize. Interesting. Using Windows 8 on the internet, we have got Chrome, which we can download for Windows 8.1, Windows 8, Windows 7, but it won't receive updates. Okay, so we have Chrome installed. Let's try YouTube. I'm still trying to do Windows Update. It's not really doing much, to be honest. So I thought I'd skip that and move on to trying YouTube and see what we get. And I wonder if we can find a Computers Explained video. I really like the way he starts his videos. Okay, we have to do this. And it is a little bit sluggish. Oh, it's explaining computers. That's what I mean. So, should be able to scroll. Maybe I've clicked something by accident. Still waiting. Here we go. Strange sort of scrolling going on. Let's just play this very briefly.
Make your browser fast.
I'll mute the advert. Let's wait for the skip.
Welcome to another video from explainingcomputers.com.
Okay, so I've muted it now, and we'll see how long it takes to sort of expand the view, and then we'll see how long it takes to make this full screen. That's pretty slow, and we're still waiting. Is it going to make it full screen? I did press that. Yeah, this is not a great experience. Yeah, this is definitely struggling. Okay. Right, this is default view. You press that, you get the wide view. Press the full screen, and we should be getting full screen. And it should be playing. So yeah, this is, we're not even really getting an update on how many frames it's dropped. Is this a network problem? So it looks like we've got a Windows update install happening, which is causing some problems, and we've probably got a bit of a network Wi-Fi connection problem. The signal is quite weak, so I'll just leave this for a bit, see if it settles down, and then we'll come back to trying to see if we get some reasonable performance from YouTube. And let's have a look at the desktop, because that's nice. So I was saying that this system was running fairly nicely, but we seem to have got stuck running Windows update wizards and, well, Windows Update installers and anti-malware service. So the CPU is stuck at 100%, and as it's a slow processor, I think I'm going to be waiting quite a long time for this to update and for the CPU usage to go back down. So that's a real shame, and you can see that the memory usage is creeping up as it's doing these installs and updates, which is quite frustrating, I guess. So yeah, it might be quite a long time before I come back to this, because it might have a big number of updates to install. 17 hours later, we have managed to install all of the Windows updates, and it's ready to restart, although still stuff installing. So I'm going to restart and check for more updates and see if we get to a point where this stops installing updates. More updates. Just the updates while it's rebooting. Thumbs up. Several hours later, again, we have got to the point where it's just sort of sitting here not doing Windows updates anymore. It has given us Microsoft Edge, and here we have it. We'll untick that and we'll get started with Edge, and we'll see what it is like to go on YouTube with Edge. So let's give this a go. Back to using a squeaky chair. So that's what that noise is in the background. We've got 3 bars on the Wi-Fi, and okay, let's accept that. Been thinking more about this whole Windows 8 experience, and you know, you do get this sort of touch screen, and there are some nice things, I suppose. You know, window management works quite well, and if you did want to leave sort of these settings over here, it fits in quite nicely, because it's sort of designed to work a bit like a mobile system or mobile operating system. But then you do end up with screens like this that take over the whole screen, ignoring your previous window setup, and there's no Going up here, there's no resize option to make it a smaller one. It's just literally taking over the whole screen. So then having to minimize out of that, and now getting stuck in the settings bit of it, and it can be a little bit awkward. Let's see if we can find the video about this laptop. So yeah, I kind of like Windows 8, but I also don't like it. It's got a nice touchscreen and that looks okay, but when you then want to go back to the desktop, it's kind of, you've got a mix of two different ways of working that don't really seem to fit together too well. And you know, what is this for? I suppose that's okay, but yeah, it seems a bit of a mismatch of kind of trying to do too many things at once. Be both a desktop operating system as well as a touchscreen tablet operating system. But yeah, let's see how this works with video playback. And I've muted it. Well, this is how it works, how I use it, and what. This is a very cheap file server. It's an old ASUS laptop with an AMD processor. I'll quickly go through what this is, how it works, how I use it, and so I'm going to click the full screen button. We're waiting, and we've got full screen. And let's bring up the information on stats. So we're still getting dropped frames. It's quite a low resolution. Let's see what we're on. 720p. And it's dropping frames, but it seems to be doing better than it was. It's still quite slow and isn't the greatest experience. We should be going back to a minimized view, but it's taking a while to catch up. So let's pause this, minimize this, and have a look at Task Manager. So it's using 1.9 gigabytes of RAM, but it's nice to see it sort of dropping back down and it's kind of idling. But I think this processor is just a little bit too slow. As soon as Windows updates come along, it just thrashes the processor. It takes a very long time to do the actual Windows updates. And then we've also got the slow video playback on YouTube. So not a great experience all round. We might be better off with a different operating system on this laptop. But if you got this far, thanks for watching. Make sure you click the subscribe button, and there are other ways of supporting this channel as well as watching videos, leaving a comment. You can also buy me a coffee or become a member of the channel. And yeah, thanks again for watching. See you in another video.